All right. If you are struggling to lose weight despite being in a calorie deficit, you're probably making one of these three mistakes, and I'm going to show you how to fix them by the end of this video. If you stay till the end, I'll send you a bonus number 4 mistake. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, mistake number 1 I see way too often is eyeballing our serving sizes. Now, it's really easy to underestimate or overestimate how much you're really eating, especially when it comes to healthy foods. You can see in this graph here, which I take no credit for, whoever the founder, the creator of this, the method, created this graphic, so shout out to them. But where a lot of people go wrong is they think they're only having a little bit of food, whether it's a tablespoon of peanut butter, just a little bit of olive oil with their dinner, when they're cooking, a handful of nuts, almonds, trail mix, and that is one of the biggest mistakes because it's very easily to double up the amount of calories that we're having on a daily basis without even knowing it. Now, the other thing that I see happen quite a lot, and this is pretty unfortunate, is food labels have a 10 to 20% margin of error that is allowed by the FDA. So if you're someone that is eyeballing their servings, and with that obviously comes human error. We're not perfect. I don't expect anyone to be perfect unless you're a robot. Who knows now in the AI age. But when we're eyeballing our serving sizes, there's a margin of human error that we need to account for. That can be 5%, 10%, 20%, depending what method you're using in order to actually track your calories. Now with the FDA, the food labels, they have a margin of error between 10 to 20%, which means we can be as high as 40, 50, maybe even 60% inaccurate when it comes to tracking our calories. So the very first thing I would recommend is start measuring your portions for the week in a gram basis. That's going to be the most accurate, and it can make a huge difference, so you're not feeling like you're eating healthy but not really seeing the results, or tracking your calories and feeling like, why am I low calories, but not really seeing that much progress. Now, here's kind of what that looks like. 50 calories for, say, your coffee creamer, some sauces for lunch. We'll leave it at that. 50 calories extra per day. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you break down the numbers, 50 calories over the span of 7 days, 350 calories per week on top of your normal maintenance. Now, when we zoom out, 350 calories over the span of a month, 1,400 calories. A pound of body fat is 3,500 calories. Now, I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you, but what this adds up to is over the span of 12 months, someone can very easily tack on 5 pounds of body fat, and that's just from a coffee creamer and some ketchup or some kind of sauce for lunch. So that adds up very, very quickly, and it's how over the span of 1, 2, 3 years, all of a sudden you're 10, 15, 20 pounds or more over your baseline weight, or where would you like to be. So already went through this. Now, I know some of you might be thinking counting calories feels really time consuming or even obsessive, and I would say perfection is stagnation. So don't try to be perfect with it, but be consistent. You might have heard it's not needed, or it's obsessive, it's time consuming, whatever, and that's valid, especially if you've been frustrated in the past when it comes to counting calories and feeling like it's not really working for you. But tracking doesn't need to be stressful. It's a tool, not a lifelong commitment. It's not like you're entering a marriage with MyFitnessPal or Chronometer or whatever app you're using. You can just use it for a few weeks to get a really clear idea on your portion sizes and what you're actually consuming on a day-to-day basis. If I were to tell you 10 minutes a day can drastically change the way you see yourself in the mirror each morning, would you do it? The likely answer is probably yes. And so something else that I'll hear sometimes is that it's obsessive, it's not needed, and technically, yes, counting calories is definitely not needed in order to lose body fat, in order to lose weight. But fat loss is already hard as fuck. Like, there is no reason for us to make it even harder on ourselves, hoping and praying that it works. Goals without intention are just going to be dreams, and most of the time they're dreams that are unfulfilled. Now, when it comes to the obsession part, You're likely already obsessed about how your clothes are fitting, what you see in the mirror, and despite feeling like you're doing all the right things, you're feeling stuck. It's almost like, tax season is going to be coming right around the corner here. It's almost like telling your financial advisor, like, hey, I don't want to look at my bank statements every week. I think that's too obsessive. But then telling them that you want to save for a house, you want to save for a new car, or you want to go on a really expensive vacation. It just doesn't work that way. If you have no idea how much money's coming in, how much money's going out the door on a week-to-week basis, it's going to make it very difficult for you to figure out how much you save and how to allocate your funds. So once you have a better understanding, you can transition away from tracking if you want, but this is a tool for you to use. And again, you're not entering like a marriage with tracking forever. Now, I want to tell you a little story. In my case here, for about 5 years, I was training pretty consistently. At this point, I have 12 years of training, but the first 7 years of my fitness journey were almost a waste of time. Almost, not quite. I did make some progress, but after a few years, I kind of stopped making progress. And then for 5 years, I really didn't see that much change. Now, some weeks I would look better, some weeks I would look worse, but for the most part, I wasn't really getting stronger. I really wasn't changing my body. And this was the single biggest mistake I was making. I remember sitting back in 2020. It was 1 o'clock, 2 a.m. It was very late, and I couldn't sleep. I was feeling really frustrated and feeling defeated. And that's kind of when I kind of gave in. I kind of threw in the towel. I said, F this. Why am I going to keep going? I'm not really seeing much results. And so that's a very tough spot to be in. I remember going to class, and I would in between classes have my meal preps. It would always be some kind of like rice. I was eating a lot of ground turkey at the time, which I've since transitioned to ground beef because it just tastes way better. And because I track my calories, I know I can actually make it fit, and it's like fine for me. But it used to be some kind of avocado, some rice, ground turkey, some ketchup. It was very simple and technically eating healthy, right? Those things are healthy, but I was eating too much of it, too many calories of it, and I just wasn't aware. And so that kept me stuck for the longest time. And then it probably didn't help that I was in the fraternity, and so I would go on benders during the weekend. So I pretty much just cancel out any progress that I had made during the week every single weekend. And so for 5 years, I was just in this cycle, spinning my wheels. I really wasn't getting stronger in the gym. I wasn't seeing my body change. And yeah, for a short period of time there, I gave up. And I don't want that to happen to you, which is why I'm making this training. Mistake number 2, going too low in calories. You can see this guy right here is stuck. He's like, I don't know if to go backwards, to go forward, go attempt it again. The mistake that I see when it comes to too little calories is you think that more is better, but your body actually needs the appropriate amount of fuel in order to actually function. Especially if you're training consistently, you definitely need to have the right amount of calories and macronutrients for your specific goal. Now, the reason this is a hard spot to be in when you're going too little in calories is you've probably heard something along the lines of you'll break your metabolism, you'll slow it down, you'll damage it. All that really is you're down regulating your metabolism. So instinctively, there's really 4 buckets in which our body burns energy, burns body fat at the end of the day. You have your basal metabolic rate, your non-exercise activity, thermogenesis. Those are always really fucking hard to say. Thermogenic effect of food, and then you got exercise. For the most part, your non-exercise, so think washing the car, vacuuming the house, wiping down the counters, cooking, cleaning, whatever it is, putting laundry away, that would be your non-exercise activity. Tapping your foot, you see me making these hand signals, that is non-exercise. My body is expending energy in order for me to actually do any of this, have high energy. And then the other biggest bucket is going to be your basal metabolic rate. When it comes to your metabolism, it will automatically downregulate, so you'll naturally just have low energy. You won't be able to think straight. You'll probably your sleep will take a hit. All of these things affect how many how much energy you're burning on a day-to-day basis, and ultimately calories at the end of the day are just energy. So the way you fix this is by giving your body the right amount of calories and macronutrient balance for your situation, your goals, and your body, where you're at right now. If you aren't really sure where to start or you're feeling stuck, I'm going to pin down in the comments an assessment. You can fill that out. I'll be happy to get you going in the right direction. Now, me and my client John, we've been working together for about 12 weeks now. And when we first began, he thought he was eating pretty healthy. He was already training, and he's a pretty busy guy. You know, he was having the right portions of food, but when we started tracking his food, you can see his body quickly started letting go of the unwanted body fat. For a few weeks during that time, you can see in the middle of September towards the middle of October, there was a period of time where he stopped seeing progress. In fact, he actually saw his weight rebounding just a little bit. Now, that was just a few pounds here, but still enough for us to notice. What ended up happening for him is, you know, he had some personal life things pop up. He was busy with school. He's busy with work. Excuse me. And he's also in the military. So his schedule is really, really packed. And so he stopped tracking during that period of time. Now, when that progress stalled, this was something that I pointed out to him. And once he realized that this was actually his blind spot, he wasn't at a point where he could actually intuitively eat, he went back to tracking. And what do you know? Within the span of a week, he actually broke his plateau. So he's now, in the span of 12 weeks, down 12 pounds. So about a pound per week, which is really good progress. That is phenomenal. That's exactly where you want to be, about a pound per week, if your goal is to lose body fat. Now, mistake number 3, not counting hidden calories. So this can be things like a little bit of olive oil in the pan, some ketchup, orange juice, nibbling from the kids' meals, nibbling from a snack at work, coffee creamer, ranch, salad dressings. Those are the main things that I see happen pretty often. And I gave you the example of the 50 calories per day and how that quickly adds up. So those 5 pounds sneak up on you, and then pretty soon you're 10, 15, 20 pounds of unwanted body fat on you. So not counting for hidden calories is mistake number 3. The biggest one is probably the olive oil pan. Now, who am I? If you don't know who I am, my name is just John. I'm a certified nutrition coach, and now I've helped over 100 people feel healthier, drop body fat, build muscle, get stronger, and have more energy at work. You can see I used to be a competitive power lifter. I no longer do it. I just got kind of tired of that training, but I took a lot away from it, especially when it comes to nutrition. You can see me and my fiance, we're here in Oregon, Crater Lake. So Oregon is where I live right now. I've ran a marathon in the past, so that definitely challenged me and called for me to level up my understanding of nutrition. And then you can see I have a mini dachshund. Her name is Violet, and she thinks the world revolves around her. But that's a little bit about me. You don't need to take my word for any of this, though, when it comes to calorie deficits, the mistakes. These are just some of the results that I've helped some of my clients make and create for themselves. Point blank, if you're not in a calorie deficit, you're not going to lose body fat. Whether it's your hormones, your age, your metabolism, they don't really matter as much as other people will lead you to believe. There's 3 tiers on where you will stand for the rest of your life. Literally 3 tiers, 3 buckets that you're going to fit into for the rest of your life. Doesn't matter if the food you're having is healthy or unhealthy, which we don't really subscribe to that mentality, but for the sake of this convo, we can all know what we mean when we say healthy foods versus unhealthy foods. But the 3 tiers that you're always going to fall into are going to be calorie deficit, calorie maintenance, or calorie surplus. And that's all affected by your total daily energy expenditure. Remember now, that's this here. Your non-exercise, thermogenic effective food, your exercise, and then your metabolic rate. So, as a quick recap, mistake number 1 is eyeballing our serving sizes. The solution for that is measure your food intake with the scale when it's appropriate. I don't need you to go take it to a restaurant, take it to date night, or if you're camping, take it with you when you're camping. You don't need to do all of that. But when you are at home, make sure that you're actually tracking accurately inside of MyFitnessPal, Chronometer, whichever app you're using. Mistake number 2, going too low in calories right off the bat, leading to what I call hangry John, or you could just be binging on the weekends, feeling extreme fatigue, a lot of brain fog, whether it's at work, in the morning, late afternoon. The solution to that is give your body the right amount of calories, the right amount of macronutrients, and have a clear start and end date for your calorie deficit. All too often, I see this be an indefinite, I'm going to lose 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds, and there's no end date in sight. It's just when I reach that goal. And that leads to that burnout. So don't treat this like a marathon. I'm sorry, don't treat this like a sprint. Treat this like a marathon. And mistake number 3, not accounting for those hidden calories. So track as soon as you're either done eating, while you're putting your meal together, or just log it ahead of time. If you know every morning you're gonna have coffee with creamer, you can't have black coffee, cool, that's not an issue. Just go ahead and log it for the rest of the week, the rest of the month. That way you don't even need to pay much mind to it. You already have it all tracked, it's already jotted down, and then you can continue with your day. And then bonus mistake number 4. This is a little more advanced technique, but when it comes to raw versus cooked weight, whether it's some kind of protein source, some kind of carb, they don't stay the same. And what I mean by that is, you can see the piece of chicken here. You lose once it's cooked, whether it's loss of the fat, the blood, whatever, you lose about 25-30%. I just do usually 30% in order to get an accurate representation of how much food I'm intaking. So if, for example, you're having 4 ounces of chicken, so 1 serving of chicken breast, typically what you can do is grab your 4 ounces, multiply by 1.30, and that equates to about a little over 5 ounces raw. That is actually your caloric intake for that meal. You're not having 4 ounces of chicken, you're actually having 5 ounces. But typically most people will weigh it cooked, and there's nothing wrong with that. So long as you're consistent in the way you're measuring, that's all that ultimately matters. So if you're kind of in this position where you're having 1,500 calories, 1,400 calories, this would be one of those things I would look at to make sure that, okay, is that actually accurate, or am I in reality that low? Now, with carbs, similar situation, but typically they're absorbing water. So things like rice, pasta, I usually double it. So 90 grams of rice, I'll automatically double it to 180. Or, I'm sorry, if it's 90 grams of rice cooked, I'll usually half it. So take about 40 grams of raw rice. Hopefully that made sense. I know I stumbled through that one. But if this helped, hit that like button, subscribe for more tips, and drop me a comment if you made any of these mistakes before. I would love to hear from you.